Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Hokyoji's Sunday Dharma Talk. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Reverend Onryu Kennedy, who was ordained in 2012 and received Dharma transmission in 2018 from her teacher, Byakuren Roshi Judith Ragir, in Katagiri Roshi's lineage. In 2019 and 2020, she attended 3-month practice periods at Toshoji International Zen Center in Japan, and in 2017 at Tassajara Zen Mountain Center in California. In the spring of 2020 practice period at Toshoji, she was Shuso, head monk of the practice period, and in 2021 she received Dharma transmission from Reverend Eido Reinhart in Kosho Uchiyama Roshi's lineage. She has been invited to participate in zuise once travel restrictions are lifted. Throughout her life, she has valued social justice work as an expression of her bodhisattva vow. From 2010 to 2021, she was one of the leaders at Clouds and Water Zen Center. She coordinated to bring Fleet Maull to teach on Engaged Buddhism in 2013. She coordinated the Interfaith Bearing Witness Retreat Conference in 2016 and Winyan Awanyankapi Protecting the Lifegivers Conference in 2019. She has an M.A. in Counseling Psychology and has worked with children and families for 22 years. And she recently completed a year-long training of Engaged Buddhism at Upaya Zen Center. Welcome, Onryu Kennedy.
Good morning, everyone, and I want to say Happy Mother's Day to all of you and all beings. Actually, we're all mothers, taking care of each other and taking care of this great earth. And that includes the birds, the trees, the clouds. All of us are mothers and nourish each other in some ways. So it's good. It's good that we have at least one day where we acknowledge the mother that lives within all of us and the mother that takes care of all of us. And I would like to thank, give a shout out to Hokyoji. I greatly appreciate the invitation to share what I've been learning and what life has been offering me in the teachings in relationship to the practice of Buddhism. I want to make sure that I talk, I'm just looking for my iPhone, because I just want to talk for about a half hour, and then I want to
give you a 5-minute warning then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I want to open it up for conversation, because I'd like to invite everyone's voice into this conversation. Because actually this is a talk that I was scheduled to offer in February, but the conditions of life, as we know, sometimes have different opportunities for us to that need our attention. So I wasn't able to be present in February, but I'm offering this talk now, so thank you. And the title of this talk is, Does Zen Need a Center? Engaging the Way. And I want to just offer that this talk is going to be circular and spiralitic, if that's a word. It's not going to be linear, like from A to B to D, or to A, B, C, D. It's going to actually A, B, D, C. So I just want to say that because sometimes that can be frustrating. But I'm hoping that in the end, it will have some he will offer something. So before I start, I would like to offer homage to all our great mothers, especially Prajna Paramita, who is the mother of all Buddhas, all our great ancestors, to our teachers, all teachers, seen and unseen, to our friends and to our families who offer us support and nourishment. I bow to all. And I also want to acknowledge I'm sitting on the homeland of Dakota in Anishinaabe nations, and I have benefited from the stolen land. And I am committed to unraveling this ancient twisted karma in a good way. So I want to begin this talk. Does Zen need a center? It's something that I have been investigating for quite a while. And is it possible to decenter the center, which I believe the conditions in life are offering the possibility of us decentering our center, not in a way that is, well, it could be very chaotic. And now that I think about it, life is chaotic. Conditions are very dynamic. Recently, I've been practicing with East Meditation Center with Mushim. I've been reading Kosho Uchiyama Roshi's beautiful book that I'll be reading from today, Approach to Zen. And I've also been traveling. I recently traveled to the Czech Republic, Prague, and Berlin. And I recently just got back, actually yesterday, from traveling with a friend, helping them to drive back from Arizona to Minneapolis, where we both live. And I'm privileged to have traveled. And also, I was very intentional about my traveling. In Prague, it was my intention to bear witness to the synagogues in the Jewish Holocaust that also happened in Prague, as well as going to Berlin and bearing witness to how in that capital, how the Germans have acknowledged the Jewish Holocaust and the Holocaust of other groups. And it's been very, it continues to be an awakening experience for me, profound. So I'd like to begin this talk with something that I read from Thich Nhat Hanh, which I think is kind of gives a context for me going forward. What he says is, we want to go out and share what we have learned, but if we do not practice breathing to untie the knots of pain in ourselves, the knots of anger, sadness, jealousy, and irritation, what can we teach others? We must understand and practice the teachings in our daily lives. We can only teach from our experience. People need to hear how we have been able to overcome our own suffering and the irritations in our own heart. When we talk about the Dharma, our words need to have energy. That is not possible if our words come from ideas, theories, and even sutras. We can only teach what we have done ourselves. I just really, that is so poignant for me, because we cannot give what we do not have. And if my heart is tied up and knotted with the three poisons of greed, anger, and ignorance, I'm not going to be able to express what's actually my experience beyond that negative energy. So I feel that what I've been really unraveling this past year is my own greed, anger, and hatred. And it's been a roller coaster, and I can say it's the most profound process that I've experienced in recent times. So the question I feel that he brings forward, and I'm going to refer to him as Tai, which means teacher. I feel what Tai has brought forward is that we must understand and practice the teachings in our daily lives. We can only teach from our own experience. So for me, my experience is in the form. My form is a white converted female Zen priest. These are the seeds of my practice. And this is where my energy, my life force comes from. And I feel that this is kind of foundational in the importance of supporting inclusivity and diversity within the center. And this practice of untangling the knots of greed, anger, and hatred, this offers the possibility of transforming and really opening up more of who we are in relation to the world in which we live, so that our capacity to include all beings in a very concrete way is there. But if my view is narrow and I haven't composted my karma, that limits me, because I'm not seeing people in front of me. I'm seeing this projection of myself in relation to them. So there's a story that I'm making up based on my experience and what have not processed. So these three poisons are compost, and being able to digest and metabolize them gives us the possibility of cultivating a peace of mind that does not deny suffering and does not deny the joy, but has the capacity to hold them both equanimously, equally. And part of my inquiry recently has been with investigating the four truths. In the past, I've kind of blown them off, honestly. I'm like, what is the value? And that's part of my my egocentricity. Was part of my arrogance. But recently, I really went into them, and Adam. I don't mean to call out Adam, but Adam and I have been studying Byakuren Roshi, and he's brilliant, and he talks about, many people talk about the Four Noble Truths, and Roshi does it in a way where I can resonate. So just briefly, dukkha, it's a Sanskrit word. It's more than suffering. It's a dissatisfaction. It's kind of like walking around with a pebble in your shoe all the time. It's not a big pebble either. It's a little pebble. So there's kind of this irritation that's kind of always present. And to kind of alleviate this dissatisfaction, we go after something, or we chase after something, or we run away from it. So there's this constant activity and no place to settle. And the cause is our clinging, our attachment, the ignorance that, and not ignorance in not the ignorance of this is kind of a gross word, but it's the only thing I can think of right now. Kind of a stupidity. We're not talking about that. We're talking about an ignorance of kind of like an unknowing, an unseeing of what is actually happening, because our eyes, our being is just covered with a lot of dust of historical karma. And the good news, right? The transformation is this can cease. And there is a path. There is a path of transformation. And I think the beauty of Zen is this possibility, and this in other spiritual practices too. It's not just in Zen, but Zen is something that I really resonate with. There's innumerable practices, and the practices that I want to talk about today in relation to transformation is Zazen and the Bodhisattva vow. And there's a beautiful book that I was able to get from the library by Kosho Uchiyama Roshi called The Approach to Zen, The Reality of Zen in Modern Civilization and Zen. It's beautiful. If you get a chance, I highly invite you to partake. It's a feast. In this book, he talks about, he speaks to Rodin's the thinker, in the posture of the thinker. And he talks about this posture as giving into delusion, because one is hunched over, bent over, so the spine is bent over, the breathing is collapsed, there's not, everything is contracted in this thinking position, right? So there's not a lot of space here. And he talks about how in the Zazen body, the body is straight. And it doesn't matter if you're sitting, lying down, standing. It's the spine. It's the spine being straight. Because when the spine is straight, the blood is able to flow through the whole body. And it's not just in the head, it's in the whole body. So it's an embodied experience. So what Uchiyama Roshi says is that when we're in this upright position, what Dogen calls upright position, learning goes back to learning, memory goes back to memory, and thought goes back to thought. So there's this receding, right? This possibility of the mind settling on itself, what Uchiyama Roshi calls the self settling on the self. And it's not about results, right? Which kind of is counterintuitive to the culture we live in, because we're all about results. We're all about getting something. I'm sorry if this is kind of like a riff, but I think it's true. And if we don't have results, we don't have a lot of value. And so I just want to read something that Uchiyama writes in this book about no results. So he says, but we ought not to think that in Zazen, no thoughts occur at all, and that the head is just empty. And that to me is gold, right? Because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding that when you do Zazen, you don't think that your head is empty. That's not it. As long as we live, even if we are doing Zazen, it is quite natural for thoughts to occur. Wow, that's freeing. I'm always thinking, right? So it's natural. I'm a human being. I think, wow, that's okay. But the important thing is to let these thoughts come and go without chasing them and without trying to drive them away. Man, that's gold too. Because many times in Zazen, I don't know how it is for you, but I'm like, man, I'm thinking. I shouldn't be thinking. I should be like thinking of non-thinking. What kind of thinking is that? I don't even know. But it's something Dogen said. So it must be true. So it's like, here it's like, no, you can think, but don't chase after them. That's great. Don't give them a story. If you chase it, even though you are sitting in Zazen, in fact, you are busy thinking and not really doing Zazen at all. Well, that's great. Now I have clarity. When I chase after my thoughts, I'm thinking. But when I'm just there in an upright position, my thoughts are arising, that's Zazen. That gives me good clarity. So in Zazen, it's important not to follow up on the thoughts that occur. Wow, I don't need to make a story about them. Then ought not we to drive these thoughts from our head? If you try to do so, you will be caught up in thinking. Out with the thoughts, drive out the thoughts, rather in Zazen, without following thoughts and without driving them out. We simply sit with bones and muscles maintaining the correct position. Right? That's so beautiful. So I feel that Zazen gives me freedom. Gives me freedom to unravel this thinking mind and for the self to settle in the self. So the self, once I get up from Zazen, becomes an instrument for myself and for all beings. That's the aim. And Zazen is a ceremony. It's not, it's something that I and many of us, we're intentional about. We have a space. I mean, in Fukanza Zengi, Dogen describes Zazen. He describes the space. He describes dropping off body and mind. What does this look like in daily life? For each one of us, it may look differently. I'm not a parent, right? I have 2 cats that I take very good care of, but I'm not a parent of a child. That is a fully different practice. I am not, right now, I'm not a social worker. So that's different for me. So our life conditions will support what it is that, how we will respond in a way that nourishes all beings. Now, I have just been given the 5-minute warning. And I want to say that I have not gotten to how to decenter Zen. And this is a very critical point for me in my talk. So what I want to say is I'm coming back. I've been invited back June 19th. So what I want to do is I want to continue this talk on June 19th, because this to me is, for me, is one of the most profound teachings for me that I have received in the past year. And I kind of give it weight. I don't want to be dramatic, but I give it weight. So I want to just to say that to end with Zazen, that Zazen is very important in being able to express the bodhisattva vow and to decenter the center in a way that has spiritual stability. And I will continue this talk in June. But I want to end it with something that I think is kind of cool. And this comes out of the Sutra of Huineng, and it's a translation by Thomas Cleary. And it talks about dragon stability. And I want to say sometimes in the West or in this country, dragons have a bad rap. And when I was in Europe, I saw this huge statue where I think it was King George was slaying the dragon. It took my breath away. It was huge, and it was very serious. I mean, that sword, that was like Manjusri's sword, only this was King George's sword slaying the dragon. I want to offer the possibility that dragons have a lot to offer. And I want to invite you to find your dragon, because the world needs dragons right now. So I just want to offer this, Dragon Stability by Thomas Cleary. Dragon stability is a technical term for stabilization, so profound that it is not destabilized by activity in the world. It's not destabilized by war, by hatred, by greed, by anger. The image comes from the idea that a dragon is physically an animal, yet mentally dwells in an elevated state. This state is equanimous because a dragon understands. Dragons have done the work of composting their karma. This is used to represent the Mahayana Buddhist ideal of transcending the world while in the very midst of the world. So we're always in the midst. We're always in the midst of the suffering and the joy. We're never, never apart from it. So I invite you, find your dragon. So thank you very much for your wonderful presence. And I really want to open this up and hear your thoughts and any comments, any questions. This is the most important part of the process, is our connection together. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Onryu. Do we have any questions and or comments, discussion? I'll open it up. I'll let Onryu just take wherever she sees.
Good morning, Onryu. Thank you for the talk, and nice to see all of you. The question or comment that came to mind when you were speaking has to do a little bit with my recent life conditions, which has been epitomized by my recent life conditions, which has been like looking to buy a house. We recently moved back to Minnesota. We've been renting. We need to buy this house for because we like to be here long term and so forth. And that process of, given our current kind of societal conditions, how our economy is structured and all of these things, the process of buying a house, as many processes in the world, is just like fraught with greed and hatred, like built into the system. You need to crush everybody else who's trying to bid on the same house. You need to act very quickly. You need to like make your bid as competitive as possible. It's like the entire process is just fraught with anxiety, with greed. And it's really hard to exist like going through that without just seeing like as a human, all this stuff is up and I can see that it's all present in how I'm existing. And all I can do is just, see that it's going on. And I think, it's not unique to purchasing houses or other big things, but it's like, so my question is, in our society, the way it's structured, where all of these things, like a lot of greed, hate, and delusion is like built in to our system, where if we are humans in this world, it's gonna be there. I'm just wondering if you could speak more to, I don't know, how to make sense of that or how to practice when it's like unavoidable and always there. And sometimes the most you can do is just see that you're like just right there in your face.
Thank you for the question. And I really invite others, if you have thoughts or comments to offer, please bring your voice in, because it's very intimate right now, even for me. How do we process our greed, our anger, our hatred, that naturally, given the conditions of the world, it's almost a natural response to what's happening. I mean, the war in Ukraine. How does one hold what Russia is doing with economy and the horror that's being created, or the results of the economy and something as important as having stable housing? I mean, being a family person, I mean, it's a birthright for people to have stability in housing, a place to live. And yet it's not possible for people. So I feel that what is working for me is to acknowledge that there's a lot of inequities out there. There's a lot of suffering, and this suffering includes me. And how can I satiate that my suffering and the relation to all beings suffering? How can I satiate that? How can I calm the fire? And I think one of the things that I have found that has been helpful for me is facing. I'm not denying this, that I do not hate. I'm not denying I do not have anger. I'm not denying that I do not feel the overwhelm. So when I feel that, one of the things that I am practicing with is the Brahma Viharas. I used to blow them off. I'm not blowing them off anymore. I'm satiating my mind with compassion. I'm satiating my mind with loving kindness, because my mind is on fire. And I am hearing this fire is not just my fire. It's the fire of suffering of all beings, whether it's, as Adam has brought forward, trying to find a house without crushing, doing it in a way that's ethical and moral, or not hating leadership that is so cruel. Because the thing about hate is a poison. So if I hate, I am drinking poison. I'm killing myself. I'm not killing anybody else. I'm killing me. So acknowledging these realities and finding practices that support calming of the mind, calming of the fire. And right now, for me, it's the Brahma Viharas. It's like satiating this mind with love. And not love that's like, oh, I love everybody. No. A love that is like, I love myself with all my flaws and all my fire. Because if I can love me the way I am, I can extend that love out. And that's really what it's about right now. So I kind of riffed there. So thank you.
Yeah. Hello. I have a kind of a question maybe that's related to what Adam was saying. I really enjoyed your idea the world needs dragons, and the dragons have done the work, and they can be equanimous, as they work in the midst of all this. And I got to thinking, I'm not sure I'm ever gonna be really equanimous. I mean, it's something I've been working on, but I guess the question, at what point you think you can go into the world and be that dragon and be equanimous and do good work. And I don't think we've ever reached there, but I realize our practice is ongoing, is a lifetime. But I don't know. I was just wondering if you could say a little bit more about, I don't know, when we're done, or when we can go out there and do that kind of work with some confidence, or when we're still kind of not, not there, maybe in our own minds, at least.
That's it. We think that there's a there, that if we get there, then we're ready to go there. And there is no there. I invite you, go there. Don't wait. Start. You've probably done it in ways where you think that this is not what it looks like. It's got to look like something else, right? Maybe it's got to look like a Martin Luther King, or even a Zelensky right now. No, it doesn't look like that. A bodhisattva, what it looks like, it could look like a smile, right? It could look like a smile when you're walking down the street. When I was we were in Arizona, and we were making our way back. I was walking out of this grocery store, and this firefighter was walking in. And I looked at him, I said, "Hi, good morning." He walked away, and then he turned around, he looked at me, and he smiled, and he said, "Good morning." I was like, that's it, right? That is what I call dragon energy. Dragon energy doesn't look like you're breathing fire and burning up the whole world. Dragon energy is very compassionate. It's just, it could be as easy as saying hi. So I just want to encourage you. You're doing it. You're doing it already. Just keep doing it. Just keep practicing. See, and for some of us, it's a different practice, right? For me, my dragon energy is a different practice than your dragon energy. My dragon energy is to kind of like mellow out a little bit, right? Not be so like intense. I mean, that's what people say. You're too intense. I'm like, okay, I'll calm down. Okay. So it's like, really working with your dragon energy and asking people like, right, what do you think? What do you think of this energy? And getting feedback. So I just really invite you. You're already doing it. Please continue. And don't stop. There is no end. The end is actually death. And then I don't know if that's even the end, because I haven't died. So I don't know. But it's endless and it's inconceivable. So thank you for the question. It's a beautiful question. Can I say something? Well,
Oh,
people.
I think Ken's trying to ask a question.
Oh,
Can we
okay.
unmute Ken?
Maybe I'm unmuted now, I think. Yes?
Oh, Ken, there we go.
Thank you. I did what I needed to. It's so very, very good to hear you, even though I have to say I could not understand a word.
You're great.
Just the way it is with this this stuff. So nice to know that it's nice to be with you anyway. And I really, really appreciate your great effort.
I love you, Ken. Really. I aspire to be the bodhisattva that you are. Thank you.
Well, I was glad that I tuned in anyway, because you can be there even though you can't talk. Understand? Possible.
I am so happy that you're present, Ken. It's a great gift to me. Thank you.
Thank you for your great efforts.
I'm following in your footsteps, and they're huge.
Oh, I can't claim that much.
If I could just add something.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. There's also this idea of not knowing. And when I was in Japan at Toshoji, Eido Roshi gave a talk the night before the Shuso ceremony. And he talked about the Dogen's dropping off body and mind, because actually that was the koan that I studied for my Shuso ceremony. And one of the things that he wrote, that he talked about, and then he spoke that night in Japanese, of course. And later on, one of the Roshis, who was bilingual, translated his talk into English, which was it was a great gift. So Master Nyojo talked about that in my place, in my temple, do not employ offering incense, prostrations, nibutsu, which is chanting, repentance, or reading sutras, but simply engage in just sitting. And I feel that this, in the past, I've misunderstood that. I felt that what Master Nyojo was saying was just sit. That's all we need to do. That's not what my understanding is right now. What he was talking about is dropping off body and mind, whether you're offering incense, prostrating, reading sutras, or chanting. That means the self is settling onto itself. And he talked about how we've heard of Bodhidharma's not knowing. Some people assume it means I don't know. But the kanji for know in Bodhidharma's not knowing is the kanji for recognize, be aware. So it doesn't mean to know or to think. It is unrelated, unconnected to thinking or knowing. Here is the source or the origin of shikantaza, or simply just sitting. Throughout the day, 24 hours a day, whatever we are doing, it is the same as zazen. Simply or solely, do what you are doing. So I just think that's very beautiful, because zazen is not separate from our life. It's an expression of our life force. So thank you for letting me offer that.
It's particularly apt right now, because I just started a sitting group last week. And it's not, it's Introduction to Zen Meditation. But I have not pulled any, so there's not a whole lot of Buddhist stuff in it, belief, Four Noble Truths. Went into it a little bit. But I did just really teach shikantaza. Like, this is Zen meditation. Right? And it's hard. So this kind of loops back to two things, speaking of circles and not. One is if you really want to learn something, try to teach it. And the second thing is this trying to explain, and this goes back a little bit to what Aaron was talking about, is like, not only we're looking for results, but when we're looking for results, we want the big bang, we want the grand gesture. And it's, I was like, no, it's like, just be okay. Just be bored. It's okay. You're just going to learn to be bored. Stop mashing the keys. Stop getting, indignant and outraged and angry about everything, and do what you can do. So yeah, that's one of the things. But it's hard to explain to people. It's like, because it's at a yoga place. So, it's like, I'm going to yoga because I'm going to, because there's benefits to doing yoga. And then, what are the benefits to Zen meditation? And it's like, no, there's no benefits. There's no benefits. Except there are, but there aren't. We don't talk about that because it's a trap. And if you look at it physiologically, what we're trying to do partially, what we're perhaps accidentally doing is, we're getting out of that dopamine cycle and the adrenaline addiction. And you can't do that by something that is goal-oriented, because that's just more dopamine. That's just more addiction. So it's wicked crazy and hard.
It's
You thought,
wicked crazy.
wicked crazy.
And hard.
And hard. It's so hard to let it just be easy. That goes back to the Four Noble Truths, right? So one way of also doing it, we've talked about it, I know a couple Dharma talks here at Hokyoji, is that suffering of dukkha is really just you're not in control. You're not in control. So what do you do with that? And that's 2, 3, and 4.
Well, yeah, we're not in control, but it's our delusion, right? Things are impermanent. There's no ground to stand on. So let's celebrate that there's no ground to stand on, that really each moment can be fresh, right? My mind can be flexible, not in a crazy, wicked way, but in a way that has some stability, right? For myself and all beings. And the irony is that impermanence includes not just suffering, it includes the joy, in which also within the joy, there's greed. So is it really joy that's like, are we really experiencing joy? Or are we just experiencing this cocktail that we think is joy, but is actually greed, right? Mm-hmm. And we're getting off on that. So it's like this, it's a thinning down of what's actually going on here. What's actually happening in this world in which I'm a part of? And why not this idea of like going back to the way it used to be? Why don't we become unused? Why don't we develop an unused attitude to the way it used to be? So that way we can develop a more openness to what's actually happening, because maybe the way it used to be wasn't like helpful for all beings. It was just helpful for a couple of beings or a group of beings.
Right.
Yeah. There's nothing to gain. And we're all going to die anyway. It's all going to go eventually. So let's just get used to it. The birth and death every moment. That's really what's actually happening as we're accumulating, and everything that we think will save us or help us or give us satisfaction. It's crazy. Turning away and touching are both wrong. So what do we do? It's a good point. Thank you.
Well,
so thank you.
I was going to say that brought us exactly to the end. The end of part 1. So I look forward to hearing part 2 in June.
Awesome.
And I want to thank you so much for being with us this morning, and thank you everyone. And this is not the only thing that Hokyoji does. And so we're down. We lost a couple of people along the way, but you can go to the Hokyoji website. Has all of our activities and ways to participate and donate, which is not just money, but also time. And so thank you again. Next week is Myo-o Habermas Share will be giving the talk. And let's close out with the 4 bows. Beings are numberless. I vow to save them. I always do this. Whenever I try to do this on this, I always start out backwards. Could you lead us, Onryu?
Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it.
Thank you. There's something about being recorded that makes me second guess myself. And with it, I didn't have a paper up, and then I always get it. I was like, wait, that's not the first one. No, wait, that is the first one. I should have just plowed ahead.
Keep going with your dragon energy, Jushin.
That's right. Make up those 4 vows. Just do what comes to mind. Maybe that would be the four vows for today.
Assuming you're working from a different translation whenever I hear a different word.
Yeah, there's that too, right? There's that too.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.